Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and today we are going to look at two wonderful South African bulbs, Scadoxus and Haemanthus. Both make fantastic pot plants either for a conservatory or a frost-free greenhouse. So we're going to unpick the difference between these often confused bulbs, and we're going to learn how to take good care of them to get years and years of flowering pleasure. So come with me to South Africa and let's learn about Haemanthus and Scadoxus. Well, unfortunately my budget didn't extend to a trip to South Africa, so we're going to have to make do with my frost-free greenhouse. Now, many of you who've watched my channel for a while will know that I absolutely love South African bulbs and grow a variety of them here in my frost-free greenhouse. And I've assembled some of them here on the table so we can have a look at them. Now, I'm going to kick off by talking about Haemanthus, a genus which is an absolute personal favourite of mine. Haemanthus is a genus in the Amaryllis family and comprises about 27 species or subspecies of tender bulbs. All come from South Africa and Namibia. Most plants in the Haemanthus family produce just 2 leaves, which are very broad and almost prostrate on the ground. Some are hairy, this one's a little bit hairy, and some are wavy. And you can see a typical example of that here on my Mountainous Haemanthus. The plant produces a leafless flower stem called a scape, and it's topped by flowers in an umbel. The umbel is shaped like a shaving brush, hence one of the common names. And the flowers have prominent yellow stamens, which you can see here, and are surrounded by bracts. The bracts are white, pink or bright red and have a striking appearance in many species. Flowers are white, pink, orange, the same array of colours as the bracts. All species can be grown in containers in free draining soil. They prefer deep clay pots because they have long fleshy roots. And one tip I'll give you, if you, like myself, have been brought up to know that overpotting is dangerous, i.e. putting a plant in a pot that's too big for it, then this tip is for you. And that tip is that perhaps you need to relax that rule a little bit with the Haemanthus, because if you put it in a pot that's too small, then it just won't flourish and it will take a long time to get going and to actually flower. I feed my plants with a liquid feed when in active growth, and all can be grown in a frost-free greenhouse, which is kept to a minimum of 5 degrees in winter, so that's 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Although I do advise a higher temperature for seedlings, and personally I've had better results with Haemanthus coccineus by bringing it indoors in winter to a minimum of 10 degrees. Now, Haemanthus are divided into 2 groups. The first is the winter growing. These come from the winter rainfall areas, the southwestern part of South Africa, and they're the biggest group. And they include species such as coccineus, like we see in front of us, pubescens and sanguineus. These flower in summer or autumn in my case, before their leaves appear. And with this particular one, it's beginning of October now. You can see it's finished flowering and it's just beginning to push up its new leaves. Now, these are on leaf through autumn and winter, which is their growing period, and in spring they die down for a warm, dry summer rest. And when they're resting, they should not be watered. They need full sun. And then we have the summer growing Haemanthus. Now, these come from summer rainfall areas in eastern South Africa, and they're divided into 2 subgroups. The first subgroup comes from the coast, and these are more or less evergreen, like albifloss, which is this white one you see in front of you here, deformis, and pausulifolius, which is this other little one here. There are only 3 Evergreen Haemanthus. Now these flower in autumn and winter and make new leaves after flowers. They should never be allowed dry out completely, although they can be kept slightly drier in late summer. They flower in autumn and winter and make new leaves after they flower. They should never be allowed dry out completely because they're evergreen. The second subgroup from the summer flowering Haemanthus hails from inland, higher altitude areas. There are 5 in this group: Mountainous, Abbas Mountainous, Carneus, Humilis, subspecies Humilis, and Humilis subspecies hirsutus, which is the one that I have here, the big guy here. Now they produce flowers with or before leaves in late spring. Their leaves last until autumn or early winter, and we're in autumn now. No sign of these leaves dying back on my Humilis, but that's good. And then they go dormant in winter and shouldn't be watered at that time. Just a general rule, if something is showing no leaves or anything above the surface of the soil, don't water it. These 2 groups need partial shade if you live in a sunny climate, but in overcast Ireland, full sun suits them fine. So now we're going to move on and talk a bit about the Scadoxus or blood lily. There's been a lot of chopping and changing between the 2 genera, and many plants which were formerly Haemanthus are now Scadoxus. For example, Haemanthus grandiflorus is now Scadoxus multiflorus. There are about 10 species of the blood lily, and they come from tropical Africa, eastern South Africa, and extend to the subtropical part of Arabia. This genus contains both bulbous and rhizome plants. Scadoxus, the blood lily, really resembles Haemanthus, but the way to tell the difference is to look at the leaves. Scadoxus has upright tufts of thin green leaves, unlike the paired Haemanthus leaves. Really quite different. All species of Scadoxus are summer growers and occur naturally in areas of summer rainfall. In cultivation, they tend to start into growth in spring after a period of winter dormancy, and they flower at the same time as their leaves. They need lots of water at this stage, and in winter watering should be reduced. They're almost evergreen. They do persist with some leaves through winter, so reduce the watering but just keep going a little bit with a bit of moisture. The potting of Scadoxus is similar to that of Haemanthus. You need deep pots, clay pots preferably, and a well-drained mix, and it's preferable to top the whole thing with coarse grit, as I've done here. Now the exception to that would be the intriguing Scadoxus nutans from Ethiopia. That plant is a rhizome, not a bulb, and it's epiphytic. So it needs an epiphytic mix, orchid bark, sphagnum, whatever you'd use for your orchids. Absolutely intriguing, and perhaps something for those of you who love everything that's just a little bit unusual and rare to look out for. Oh, and its flowers as well. They're umbels like the rest of the Scadoxus family, but they face down. So what about hardiness? And the good news is that the 3 species found in South Africa, and perhaps the most commonly cultivated, Scadoxus, these are hardy to a winter minimum of 5 degrees Celsius, which is 41 Fahrenheit. And these 3 species are Multiflorus puniceus, which I grow and love, and Membranaceus. The remaining species are tropical and need a 10-degree minimum. So if you're growing them in your cool greenhouse, what you need to do is to bring them indoors for winter. So I guess around about autumn time, bring them into even a cool conservatory, anywhere where they can get a 10-degree minimum or 50-degree Fahrenheit should do them well. And these tropical species are Cinnabarinus, Pole Evansii, Sirtantiflorus, Longifolius, Pseudocolus, and of course the intriguing nutans which we mentioned earlier, the epiphyte. And just a little tidbit for added interest relating to Scadoxus, and that is that many of the plants are actually poisonous. So Scadoxus multiflorus and Scadoxus cinnabarinus, they were traditionally used as poison on the tips of arrows and also for fishing purposes. They've also been used in medicines in South Africa, as well as Scadoxus pernicious. So don't eat any of these. And so we come to the end of my video to unpick the difference between Scadoxus and Haemanthus. I hope I did it successfully, and I hope I helped you to know how to grow these fantastic bulbs if you needed to know, and if perhaps you had some questions about the different species and the difference between the various ones. I just want to end off by saying that I was in two minds as to whether to make this video or not, because it does seem a little bit specialised, and I have an absolute love of Haemanthus, especially these amazing ones with the enormous leaves, and I wanted to share that passion. But my first thought was to share it in memberships only. And if you haven't heard about memberships, then I'm going to tell you a little bit about it now. So it's a means whereby you can get more from the channel if you're interested in very rare, very specialised videos. Then perhaps you'd like to sign up to membership and be eligible to get these members only specialised videos. I produce one every 2 weeks. And at the moment though, it's a bit more frequently than that. And then on a daily basis, you get little snippet clips, videos, video diary of plants in bloom, and kind of like an update. We had recently an update on my Haemanthus coccineus when it was in flower, that kind of thing. So if you're interested, go and check out and hit that join button. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. Bye.